All right, so in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go over three different things, okay? We're going to go over midline, amplitude, and period, okay? So midline. That's going to split this baby right down the middle. Let's see what they've given us. They've given us an amplitude. I'm going to highlight it. They've given us an amplitude of 4.2, and they've given us a maximum point. All right, there's our maximum point, which is at 1.8. If I want to find the midline and they've given me the maximum, all I got to do is take that 1.8. I just got to take away the amplitude. All right, so take away that amplitude, and that's all I got to do. So let's take a 1.8 and let's take away that amplitude of 4.2. That puts us at a negative 2.4. All right, see if that would make sense. So if I do negative 2.4, that kind of puts me right about here. Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. Because look at this graph. There we go. Looks like it's a negative, you could say it's a negative sign graph. There we go. So our amplitude goes from here up and from here down. What is our amplitude? The distance from here to here. I apologize for my horrible writing. Let's make sure let's go straight. Yeah, here we go. Here's my amplitude from here to right there. That's 4.2. So what is our midline? Right here, it's y equals negative 2.4. And then our lowest point would be right down in here. But yeah, that makes sense. So what are we going to do? Just going to type in. Let's see here where it, oh, try that. There we go. Scroll down. Yeah. Y equals, not equals, negative 2.4. All right. Nailed it. All right, let's check this one. Oh, this is going to be super easy. Look at this. It gave us the maximum and it gave us the minimum. This is going to be super easy. So let's say you're given the maximum and let's say you're given the minimum. Well, the midline is what goes where? Right perfectly between the maximum and the minimum. So how do we find the average? Well, let's just go back to, I guess, junior high. I don't know. I did averages. We're going to add these babies together, 6.8 plus 1.2. Take those suckers, divide it by 2. Well, we can kind of do this in our heads, all right? You can kind of see that 6.8, 1.2 is 8, and 8 over 2 is 4. But just in case you're like, I don't know how to do it in my head. Help me. All right, you could do 6.8 plus 1.2. Press enter. This, divide that by 2. Now, if you like to do the old alpha y equals enter, you can try that too. Alpha y equals enter. Type in the 6.8 plus the 1.2. All right, then divide it by 2. You still get the same answer of 4. All right. So what does that mean? That means our midline is right here at a 4. That makes sense. You can kind of see how it splits that graph. There we go. I know that's a little too much highlighting. I'll just, that's probably better. Yeah, that's better. There we go. It's not as. All right, so we go. Y equals 4. I feel pretty good about this. Y equals 4. I feel a lot better about it than my handwriting. I'll tell you that much. All right, y equals, let's type in a 4. Nailed it. All right, here we go. What we gonna do? What we gonna do? Oh, they gave us an amplitude. All right, sweet. Look, amplitude is at 4.1. All right, there's our highest point at 6.7. Once again, really easy. Just take that 6.7, take away that 4.1, and that leaves us with 2.6. What does that mean? That means our midline's at what? That's supposed to be a y equals. All right, come on, you can do this, man. You can do this. Y equals 2.6. All right, you are no Salman Khan, but you know what? You can still have fun with your kids and your students. There we go. That's not too bad. The 2.6 goes down, back up. Looks like there's a cosine graph. All right, 6.7 minus 2.6. Type it in. 5.6. Nailed it. Let's do one more. Oh, good. Finally, they gave us. Oh, well, looks like they gave us a. Now, if they would have given you the a minimum and not the maximum, then all you have to do is add the amplitude up. Okay, so sometimes what have we done? We've subtracted it. Okay, but if it gave you the minimum, we could still add it up if we wanted to. Okay, we could add the amplitude up to that to find the midline. All right, so let's one more. So what's the midline? There's the 11.4. So all we're going to do is take 11.4. What are we going to add to it? We're going to add this negative 5.5. So we're going to add a negative 5.5. Another thing is just you could just say 11.4 minus 5.5, and then you just take that and divide it by 2. So 11.4 minus 5.5. Voila, there it is. Divide it by 2. What? 2.95? Really? Are they going to be that specific? Y equals 2.95? Where would 2.95 be? Really close to a 3, right? So right about in there. Yeah, that makes sense. That looks like a midline right there. Okay. Let's say 2.95. Let's do it. Let's trust the process. All right. 2.95 all the way to the hundredths. Wow, nailed it. Good job, midline. Done. Ooh, let's go to amplitude. How do we find the amplitude? Okay. Let's look. Okay. Would you agree that the amplitude, this is where you're supposed to say yes, goes from the midline to the lowest point, from the midline to the highest point. So literally, right here, the midline's at 1.2. And we're down here at negative 3.4. All right. So I don't know if you've ever I like thinking about things on the number line. So let's think about things on the number line here. We got a 0. Let's call this 1.2. Let's call this negative 3.4. It's like, what's the gap between here and here? That's the gap. Well, this gap is 3.4, and this gap is 1.2. Add them together, and what do you get? 4.6. So the gap between here and right here, that gap is 4.6 units. That's your amplitude. The distance from the midline to the lowest point, or from the distance from the midline to the highest point, from right there. And yes, I better make it nicer and neater. Okay. There, see? That's the amplitude. And right here, this would also be 4.6. So if I wanted to find that point, all I'd have to do is take 4.6, add it to it, add a 4. That'd be at a 5.8. Okay, that'd be the maximum point right there. 5. And look, that makes sense. See, it's almost right there at a 6, 5.8. So we're gonna type in 4.6. 4.6. Nailed it. Let's do one more. Okay. Okay, so here we go. We got the highest point and we got the lowest point. So the first thing we're going to do, all right, so we're going to find the distance between, so the amplitude is the distance between the highest and the lowest divided by 2. So you can say, hey, if you want to have a little formula in your journal, you could say, let's take the highest point, also known as the maximum, okay? We're going to take away the lowest point, take away the lowest point. So we're going to take away the minimum and then divide that by 2, and that will give you your amplitude. If you're like a formula person that just give me a formula to plug it in, please. Come on, man. Just give me a formula. All right, so here we go. What is our maximum? 7.7. We're going to take away this negative 6.7. Now remember, a negative times a negative is a positive, so that's going to end up becoming, oh, it kind of tells us our gap right there. Then we're going to take that guy and divide it by 2. So we're just going to take 7.7. All right, if you want to do it, you could minus a negative 6.7. That's the same as saying 7.7 plus 6.7. All right, but then we're just going to take that, we're going to divide it by 2. And look what we get, 7.2. So what does that mean for us? That means our amplitude is 7.2. All right? So if you wanted to find the midline, you could also find the midline by adding them together and dividing by 2. So we could take, I'll scroll up here. Okay, put a minus. All right, divide by 2. So our midline's at 0.5. That's where our midline is at. So our midline is right here. Okay. You can kind of see that if our midline was at y equals a half, also known as 0.5, you can kind of understand that the gap between a 0.5 and a 7.7 is 7.2. So I feel pretty good about the amplitude being 7.2. Whether I do it from there or from the midline down, that's still going to be 7.2. All right. I think we're pretty good to go here. 7.2. All right. So we just talked about, all right, this quick, we talked about midline and amplitude. So we're going to be talking about the period. Let's talk about that tomorrow. I'm ready to go to bed. You have a good night.